What's going on, guys? What's going on, Burgundy Ballers? Welcome back to the Ballin and Burgundy podcast, where we hit you guys with everything Commanders related. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and then the post notification bell to let you know every time we upload. We got a banger for you guys. If you don't know, I'm Jonathan at john.pro_10 on Instagram. Justin and Andrew aren't here today. They are both working and have school on family time. So I said, hey, I got this. But we got a very special guest in the building coming over from the Burgundy and Gold Report, one of our great friends here on the channel. My man Adam, what's going on?
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
No, thank you for coming on, especially at somewhat of a short notice. So,
Yeah, no doubt. It's a busy time, draft time, but it's a fun time.
oh, it's a great time. It's a great time. Well, for those tuning in, it is Tuesday. You guys might see this on Wednesday, but the combine was just this weekend. DBs, O line, D line, tight ends, receivers, quarterbacks. And this was a very, very energetic combine, to say the least. Very numerous records broken. You had guys set high bars. You had some guys disappoint, and some guys just flourish. And I know for the Commanders, we talked to a lot of people. We talked to 32 combine prospects, and 20 of those were offensive linemen, which I found great because our O line is not in great shape. It's not in great shape. What do you think of the combine?
Fast. That's what I would take away from that. The time speeds, the athletic drills for the
Yep.
players. And then of course, everyone's going to talk about the tight ends. The kid from Georgia Washington. Nearly 6'7" with the one-handed catch. But then you have the kid from Old Dominion, 6'7" with a 40-inch vertical.
Yep.
It's just it's not something I think you've seen. It's a lot more speed, and you can tell there's a lot more focus on pre-combine agility training, especially running. But yeah, that was my takeaway with it, to be honest with you. And then a couple of guys I wrote about previously at the combine, I was happy to hear, that they were, a couple of the few that met with Washington. But as we've seen, that it doesn't always matter if they meet with Bowl. It just goes through the off season. So take it with a grain of salt, but you can definitely tell looking at the positions that they've been talking to that they definitely have a focus of what they're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, Darnell Washington out of Georgia, that man was a beast. 6'7", running a sub 4.5 40 with the one-handed
Right.
catch. My man Zach Kuntz out of ODU running a 4.4 40 with that 40-inch vertical, being 6'6", and this time last year having that dislocated knee repair, just putting up crazy stats at the combine. If we don't get a tight end early, someone's gonna grab Kuntz. I could see fourth round for him, considering how deep this tight end class is.
Yeah, I think with Washington, what my opinion is, as good as the tight end group is, I don't think you're going to see someone before round four. I think they're happy with the development of Armani Rogers. He's a favorite of mine
Yep.
as far as pure agility, speed. They do like Cole Turner. He just got hit with the injury bug numerous times, but at Nevada, he was a red zone touchdown threat. So I think they like
Yeah.
him. And then Bates an all around guy. So I think you're looking more at a developmental guy that they find on day three. We saw Will Mallory from Miami run really fast. A couple Y tight ends that are going to be available, but I think in the couple first round through the fourth round, I really see a focus on O line, linebacker, corner. And you could see that from
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely. I mean, this corner class, this linebacker class, this offensive line draft is crazy, crazy deep. I made top threes for each position, but those three could go within the first 15 picks. I mean, Gonzalez, Porter Jr., and Witherspoon could all be gone by 14. Forrest, Paris Johnson Jr., Skoronski could be gone by then. You have guys like Trent Simpson, Drew Sanders, Jack Campbell. I mean, D Winters went up some draft boards. Ventrell Miller out of Florida. I mean, you could get a linebacker in every single round if someone was really crazy like that, and you can't go wrong with any pick because they're all so good. I think the slowest one was like a 4.8, 4.7, 4.8, 40, if that high.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And I think a guy that really, between the Senior Bowl and the Combine, Deion Henley from Washington State is a guy I just wrote
yes,
about, former wide receiver, has only been in the position for 3 years, but man, 5 interceptions during his career. He transferred to Washington State his final year, but this kid is just scratching the surface. Not a big guy, just over 6 foot, but 230. Coverage linebacker, and you talk about what Washington's looking for between him, Jack Campbell. He's totally opposite, 6'5", but man, he showed in his short shuttle drill. They clocked him at what 6.74 seconds in the short shuttle drill. That's an extremely fast time for anyone that big of a man. So those are two guys I definitely have my radar in the second round. But like you said, the board's going to fall a certain way, and I think it's going to be either heavy offensive tackle, heavy cornerback, and whichever one is left, I think Washington takes. I think they're pretty happy walking away with that first round of one of the top offensive tackles, one of the top corners. But
yep,
I'm a proponent, and I was last year of the trade back. A lot of people were crying that they traded back and got Jahan Dotson, but he was a guy I loved, and I
yeah,
think this draft is really shaping in a similar way. That if you can trade back into even the early 20s, late teens, just 4 or 5 picks back, and get that extra third round, that could be extremely valuable this year.
absolutely. I mean, Gonzalez and Joey Porter Jr. I get to see go even top 10 because Detroit, Atlanta, Philly are all going to need corners because Philly's going to lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's going to lose Bradbury. You're going to lose a whole bunch of
Yeah.
guys there. Carolina's got J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson, but Dante's getting up there in age, and J.C.'s got that injury bug even from his first year getting hit. And then Detroit, yeah, you've got what's his name out of Ohio State? Why am I blanking on his name? He went third
Oh,
overall.
yeah.
Jeff Okuda. Jeff
Okuda.
Okuda.
Yeah.
Good kid, great speed, but he's gonna need a number two or a Warrior. He's gonna hit free agency as expected, so he doesn't have a number two to back him up. So they get go over someone. Pittsburgh right behind us at 17 are probably looking at Porter Jr. just because Daddy played for Pittsburgh.
That's right.
You bring in that family legacy. I mean, Green Bay's probably going to go wide receiver, but someone like a New England right at 14 could go corner just as easy because Jack Jones and Jonathan Jones are all going to be in the mix of free agency. It's going to be tough. I've said with Justin and Andrew because we have a nice big BIB group chat is if none of those guys fall to 16 and you see Skoronsky and let's say Torres go because Soren's out of Florida. He's risen up some draft boards. He'll probably go in the later 20s, early
Definitely.
30s, but he's gonna rise up fast. If I can't get either of those two or those three corners, I'm moving back. Baltimore can move up and get a receiver if they don't trade Lamar. Los Angeles is going to need a receiver. Uh, the Bengals are going to need a little bit of everything just because with the whole Joe Mixon situation. With news coming out today, that does not look good. New Orleans needs a whole lot. Even when you just signed Derek Carr at another 4-year contract. You have Chris Olave and you have Michael Thomas. Well, Thomas has both got injury concerns and contract concerns. Kamara's got both, being he's got that not guilty plea, and his contract's going to be crazy expensive. So if I were to say, hey, New Orleans, did you give us a second and a fourth, and maybe a third because you're going from 31 to 16, and you bring it, you get a tackle right there at 29. You go corner and center right there at 2 and 3. You start building up depth in the 4th and 5th. I don't see that as a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I think exactly. It's shaping up just like it was last year. If you can get those extra day 2 picks, you we talk about, everyone talks about Bijan Robinson. I'm not saying Washington should get a running back with their top 3 picks, but there's a guy, they had a good combine showing, so I don't think he goes in the first round. But somehow, if you can walk away and you can get 2 picks in the second round, I think that's a luxury spot where you get a position in need before that. But if you have a guy like Carbonason back there, because everyone needs to remember, Gibson, I'm anticipating him to have a pretty good year. Either
Yeah.
way, I think he's gone from Washington. Either he prices himself out or they're just not going to resign him. So, I've looked at Carbonet and I looked at this kid Spears from Tulane as another more of a receiving threat running back. But I think that's the benefit from trading back is you can get some luxury picks and looking towards the future. Because, we keep talking about Deron Payton, interior line, and everything. That's something that's going to shape up as soon as free agency starts. So I think we'll see right away what's going to happen. I don't think that they're probably going to be able to move him. It's the Washington trend, probably be with Washington for this upcoming year. But
Yep,
everyone wants to count on the other Alabama kid, but we have to remember coming off a knee injury. So I think it's that third, fourth round range. Those are some sweet spots where they can really draft for the future.
absolutely. I mean, even to say this running back class is a bit on the I don't want to say the smaller side because some guys are 6'1", 6'2", but the median age for these running backs 5'9", 5'10". But I mean they were fairly fast, like you were saying. Robinson, Charbonnet. You got Tanks Bigsby out of Auburn. You got Zach Evans out of Ole Miss. Tajay Spears out of Tulane. Kendre Miller out of TCU. You've got that kid Juice Vaughn out of Kansas State. I mean, they're on the smaller side. Your 5'11s, your 5'10s. But if you're just using it as that receiving type of back, the Gibson might be, just because his hands kept getting him in trouble at times. We will see. I would get a running back probably in the fifth, sixth area. If we can't get corner at that first rate, and then kind of how the board falls, if we get, let's say, O line 2, 3, and linebacker 4, now we got to start getting in that depth because we still have guys like Jared Patterson, Jonathan Williams, who brought back for the 1 year. So we'll kind of see how things go, but I don't hate the running backs. I think they're just on the smaller side for
Right.
what we're looking for. And even with Jared McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Isaiah Pacheco being their non-number one back, he's on the smaller side, but he's got major, major speed to him and great acceleration. I'm curious what EB would do if he were to draft, let's say, a Charbonnet or an Evans or Deuce Vaughn type of situation.
It'll be interesting. Like I said, free agency is going to probably change a lot of what I'm saying as far as the back end positions, because I think that McKissick is one of those guys that can be a cap cut because you're talking about 2 straight years, neck
Yeah,
injury. There's got to be a little concern. There's a little savings you can. I personally think you can replace someone like him, like you said, on day 3 in the 5th round, or even maybe even later you get one. But the depth on this draft, like you're saying, it's going to push a lot of top 100 guys probably into that 4th, 5th range. So yeah, that'll be some good opportunities to really really build for the future.
yeah, definitely. I think JD's on his way out the door. Obviously don't want to take money off his plate. Try to say, oh, the injury's not that bad, because the neck injury is always serious.
That's a big
Obviously,
concern.
it's concerning. Obviously, we've said it here at BIB multiple times. I'm sure you'd agree with this. But we wish him nothing but the best. We want him to get healthy. Before the neck injury, he was a pretty good running back for what he was positioned to do, being that third down back, that receiving back. If Gibson, was hurt, JD would come in. So I thought he did a great job, especially in 2021 when Gibson was back and forth, and especially that Atlanta game, that big old stretch that he made. But 2-3 million off the cap. If we cut him, obviously, just wish him to stay healthy. But I agree. I think he'll be gone. I think guys like Trey Turner, Norwell, really, I think they're going to get cut or traded just because they're big
Hopefully.
cap hits. They're injury prone. And they didn't do a whole lot. I mean, we had an all right line, if I'm being generous, it was all right. But I mean, guys like Orlando Brown, Isaiah Wynn, Matt Pryor, Caleb McGarry, Mike McGlinchey, Connor McGovern, who's the guard? Dalton Reisner out of Denver. I mean, there's guys who you can sign for 3-year contract, and you're only going to pay them for 2 of them because you're going to get
Right.
an influx of guys on every draft, and this would be the draft to build 3 picks, whether it's 2, 4, and 5, 1, 3, and 5, 2, 6, and 7. However you want to play your dominoes, is you go get offensive line, you get a tackle, guard, and center for every position, because Lord knows we're thin on each.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the idea of Chris Paul coming in. I really liked him. They gave him a
Yes.
shot at the last game, so I like him competing with a rookie. And I've been saying it since the middle of the year. I want Cosme to be the right guard. So I
Yep.
think exactly as important as tackle is, we talked about Leno. I don't see them cutting him. Maybe they'll ask him to restructure, but right tackle, that's glaring. So you look at a guy like Dwan Jones out of Ohio State. Fanos, dude is absolutely amazing, and a lot of people think he could slip into the back end of the first round. To me, that's when we talk about trade ups, trade backs. That's why I love the idea. We talk about that, Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat,
Yep.
where they trade back a couple picks. they're able to get, their main guy and then trade back in the first happens with that first pick. Because I think a guy like that, if, I know Ron Rivera, the whole 2-to-1 ratio run, that's not going to happen under this,
Yeah.
but it's going to be balanced. And I think if that's going to happen, they need a lot more at right tackle they have, because I think Leno can be serviceable, but I think right tackle is immediate need. And the way the ownership stuff is going, if Snyder wasn't selling, I think they might be a little more involved. I'm expecting this free agency is going to be a bunch of backups. I don't really think you're going to see guys, with starting caliber, ability to be signed. Like I keep saying, Holcomb will probably be back coming off an injury. He'll be cheap, but I think you can't go into the season hoping he's going to be your starting Mike. So although you can't solve all the problems in the draft, we saw with Curl in the past, we've seen with Matt Ioannidis in the past, you can get guys, mid to later, and then they'll contribute right away. So I think that really the whole cliche of building through the draft, this is going to be, I know Ron Rivera knows that this is a make or break year. So all the people that have been talking about, the Anthony Richardson stuff and all that, there's so many reasons that's not going to happen. They'll roll with Hal until they don't have to, and they'll just surround him with a good offensive line. And I think if they do that, I think they have a decent chance of winning 9-10 games. But you got to draft well. It's really key.
Absolutely. I mean, BYU's Blake Freeland, the tackle, 302, 6'8". I mean, he had a stellar combine. When I looked at it, I was like, man, this kid, even if we get him, in the third round, he falls back. You can't say you blame him, because this draft is so deep at tackle, guard, center. The kid out of USC, Andrew Voorhees, tore his ACL and still put up 38 benches. I was like, this kid is crazy. He's going to fall back now because of injury. But if we got him in, let's say, the 5th to 6th, give him a year to develop, and now put him out next year. Whether it's Howell out there in 2024, whether we draft Caleb Williams, God forbid we got lucky and get Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix Jr. or someone like that. Voorhees was a guaranteed starter coming into this year. Next year, there's no way you don't say, now you got to start him, because that's what you drafted him for.
Right. I really
pre-injury.
I like next year's quarterback draft a lot more. So that's why I'm like, there shouldn't be any, I guess fans play, the whole Madden this time of year, but there's no reason to move up for any of these quarterbacks. There's no reason to reach on any of the, like, to me, Richardson and Levis, their reach is for in the first round for me. It's Young and Stroud, anybody else in this draft. So I think next year, you'd mentioned just a couple names. There's like 4 or 5 guys that no matter where Washington finishes, if Washington finishes, they're picking the top 20. And let's say their run game did great, their defense was lights out, and the quarterback was just okay. They can move up and get one of these guys. Not talking about 1 or 2 guys. So I think this is a draft you just focus on filling your weakest spots. And I think should be no question is the offensive line, but it's really important what's going to go on with the defensive line. So again, I wouldn't put it past them. This kid out of Northwestern, I'll butcher his name, Dubrouet, 6'2", 282, ran, was it sub 4.6 or even faster? Like, these are the kind of guys that you build for the future. So I would not be surprised that they already have it in mind that Payne is a 1-year rental. They're just not all in for Sweat, and they're really putting, all their money in the middle of the table for Chase Young. I think they cannot just wait till it's a problem. So again, you talk about those positions deep. Edge is deep. There's guys deep. There's this guy at San Diego State. I was watching Samoan. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head, but I just started watching tape on him. He could go 3rd, 4th round. This guy had 15 sacks last year. Like, these guys are impact players. So this is a state of mind. Unless you're in the top 10, I feel like there's always reason to move back and get extra capital.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, this edge draft, this D-line draft is crazy. I mean, even if you get someone like the 4th round, a Byron Young out of Bama, you got Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest, Ojimo out of Texas, you've got Coburn out of Texas, you've got Redmond out of Oklahoma, you've got Dexter out of Florida. I mean, you've got a crazy, crazy amount of guys. Jacqueline Roy out of LSU, Yaya Dibby out of Louisville. I mean, you've got guys for days in this draft. This is one of the more talented drafts, but on the younger side this year that I've seen the past few years. Like last year, it was really more They're on the older side, but they're going to be stars. This year is more of
Right.
a you've got millions of pounds of potential. Use it right. Because wide receivers stacked, but I only see 3 to 4 going in the first round. Quarterback really young. There's going to be 4 in the top 10, which is crazy, but it's going to happen. Indy, the Colts, the Texans, the I'm missing teams. Colts, the Texans, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Raiders, all need quarterbacks. Tennessee, if they get rid of
Right.
Ryan Tannehill, they don't want to stick with Malik Willis. They've got ammo to move up. If they're gonna move on from Derrick Henry, they've got ammo to move back. They've got a lot of positions to
Yeah.
move around. Um, I think this draft's gonna be really weird. I think Richardson, his stock board definitely went up because of his combine. I mean, his speed, his athleticism, his height, his weight. I mean, I'm a Florida guy myself. I'm here in Florida. For those who know my back, know the background, they're like, oh, he's probably in Florida. Because I watched him this year, and he had great moments, and he had not great moments. I mean, the Utah game, great. The Tennessee game, not so much. Hold on. We got a few sponsors we need to personally thank for here at Ballin and Burgundy. First, our guy Washington on the Daily, both on Instagram and YouTube. Huge sponsor. We want to give our massive thanks out to them. You can follow Washington on the Daily, both on Instagram and on Twitter, WSH on the Daily. Our guy Tony, who's Pro Tech Sports Network. Huge thanks to him. I met up with him at the Commanders Vikings game. Huge thanks to him. Our guy Sanchez at On the Warpath podcast over on YouTube and on Instagram. And then finally, our guy Rio Robinson, Mr. Rambling with Rio himself, our new sponsor, and a huge thanks to him. Met up with him at the Vikings Commanders game as well. Said thank you to him. Again, huge thanks. So again, all of their Instagrams and YouTubes are going to be down in the description. You guys go follow all of them. And again, one big thank you to Rio, Tony, Sanchez, Washington on the Daily for being sponsors of not only today's video, but Ballin and Burgundy as a podcast. Get back to work.
And now we return you to our regular scheduled program.
Not
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, accuracy is something like people say you can teach that, but man, it takes a lot of time to do. Because when you're on the NFL level, you're not out running and running over guys like he did. That's the thing.
Nope.
He's going to be playing guys that are faster and bigger. Agree. I like his footwork in the pocket and how he can maneuver. But man, when he's asked to throw in the run or to be extremely accurate, I'm not going to Washington in a situation there, and I would not touch him if you 2-3 years. Maybe I still find it high, but I think, like you said, teams are desperate, and I think there's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken before Washington even picks, and that just plays in their favor.
It does play in our favor. I mean, the comparisons are to Cam Newton and to Josh Allen, just because of the arm strength, the mobility, and the get out of the pocket. I can see those, but yes, Josh Allen was not accurate coming out of college, but yet he still went top 10, and now he's a top 5 QB in the league because he had someone like a Brian Daboll to coach him up, to get him right. Cam Newton had Ron Rivera and that QB coach and got him just right. Richardson is so young, a year starter at Florida because he had Emory Jones the year prior, which got us into good places, but not where he wanted to be. If I had to reach on a QB, I'd move back to New Orleans because they're going to want a receiver, an edge, a quarterback, whatever they need. I go to 29, and I'm going to reach on a QB. I'll go Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee. The ACL will throw a wrench in the cork, but if he doesn't get injured, who says he doesn't win the Heisman? Who says he's not the top 5 pick in this draft class? I mean, he's got talent for days. He's got an arm strength for days. He's mature for his age. He's 24, 25? He's 25. He'll turn 25, I think, back in December. It's on the older side, but his maturity, his leadership, and the way he doesn't get in the news unless it's positivity, which is something Washington needs, is if I had to go quarterback, and for whatever reason Sam Howell did not work this draft. If let's say that Dallas game he threw 4 picks, threw for 200 yards, and training camp looked like a bust, and I had to go and get a quarterback, I'll move back at Hendon Hooker and let him stew for a year.
Yeah, no, and this is not a draft like if you're looking in the mid rounds for a guy that's going to play right away. But two guys that I wrote about were Cameron Ward from Washington State and Tyson Badgett, small school level. That's what a lot of my successful write ups are. He's from Shepherd, 17,000 yards career. These are the kind of guys that you're able to put in your practice squad, develop over time. But in this age of the NFL, if you're drafting a quarterback in the first, let's say, 2 rounds, you better be expecting him to play by year 2. And with Hooker, like you said, if he didn't have that injury, I think he would definitely be first round. He probably would be the second quarterback taken, probably in the top 25. That's how good of a season he was. Injury, it's the dominoes that fall with it. And right now, I think, coming in, they were talking about 3rd round. I think he really had some great interviews from scouts and people I talked to, said that they were just really blown away. And the age is really not going to be an issue for the quarterback needy teams because, we're really talking about a year, 2 years, past what most teams are looking for. They want to see a 4-year college quarterback. So I think, end of 1st round, probably not. But I really think that someone in that early 2nd round is going to, probably move up from somewhere to get him because I think, like you said, it's not something career threatening. And he just showed a lot against elite competition in the SEC. And that's a big plus to NFL scouts.
Yeah, definitely. His game, I was watching Tennessee games just because nothing else was on TV in Virginia. I was like, all right, Tennessee, Bama, why not throw this on? Almost had like an immaculate game against an Alabama team who wasn't great this year. If we're being 100%, this was not Alabama of 2011. This wasn't Bama of, 2015, 2016, 2019. This was a Bama of lower tier, but it's still Nick Saban and Bama. And outside of that, I think the one game towards the end of the year where he gets hurt, to me, he would have won the Heisman. I think he would have beat Bryce Young out because his stats were, ridiculous. He had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the 10 games he played. A QBR of 124.6, 3,100 yards, 69% completion percentage. You're talking about a guy 6'3", 217 with good sized hands, a good arm reach, and a great wingspan. His 40 time was 4.7. I think it's projected at 4.77 because I don't think he ran to the combine. But get him a fully healthy ACL because what it was 5 years ago isn't what it is today. 5 years ago, an ACL, you were gone for a whole year. Now you're back in 5 months, 6 months. Depending on your profession. So, and he started recovering, I think, back in December, January time. Come spring camp, training camp. Let's say September. Let's say preseason time. Well, that's August. So August preseason time. That gives him.
Well, that's when he's been fully cleared. He's pretty much been presumptive. They're saying before the season starts, before week 1, that he would be ready and cleared and not see any setbacks. So, I think it'll cost him some draft position, of course.
Yeah.
But I think that a name that nobody's been really talking about, which is surprising because I guess it's Alabama, is a guy just wrote about Brian Branch. This is a guy that's, slot, corner, free safety, strong safety, rose hell at the line of scrimmage. So I'd be really surprised if he slips to Washington. But, after, not that he replaces McCain because McCain was just kind of a fill-in. But, if fans remember, Minka Fitzpatrick, that was with the Steelers, it's a carbon copy of him. It's called the Star Roll that they played over at Alabama, where it's just that depending on the sets, he's either covering the slot deep. We've seen that Del Rio likes to go heavy zone and not as much press. That's opened the door for a corner like this because, we talk about Porter and some of these guys that, can probably long arm, long limb can excel in press coverage, but that's not what Washington's really running. So I think you're looking for more of these quick twitch DBs corners. So again, Brian Branch, a lot of people don't think he's going to be available, but we talk about if there's 4 quarterbacks, offensive tackles, edge, and a guy. The league has fallen in love with Illinois' Witherspoon just for his tenacity, the way he plays the ball. I definitely think he's the first DB taken. I'd be really shocked if a guy like Brian Branch falls to Washington and they don't select him because one thing we've seen with them, we talk about the Buffalo nickel roll. That's something they've been toyed with as well with him. that guy fits exactly what they're trying to run. In Washington, people might call it a reach because of the needs. They need offensive tackle and other positions. But man, to me, as soon as I popped on that guy's tape, I watched the Alabama games, but it's a totally different scenario when you're just focusing on him. And although he's not a big guy, just a shade over 6 foot, he's all over the field. So if you can get a guy like that, play multiple roles, because everyone is really on Forrest right now, and I love him. Don't get me wrong, but to mark him down as the starting free safety for the next 10 years, he's another tweener. So that's what everyone has to understand. This team is not set at any of those positions. No. The defensive back, a lot of tweeners. So guy like Brian Branch falls, that's definitely someone they're going to look at too. But again, that's also room to maybe appeal to another team and do a trade back, which we're proponents for.
Definitely. I think Brian Branch, I think he's going to fall just because, he ran I think it was a 4.68, 4.7 40.
Yeah.
Like you said, 5'11", 190. So he's on the lighter side. But I mean, he wasn't giving up, crazy plays. This Bama team was not the greatest this season by Nick Saban. His bar of the SEC. This wasn't, a top 5 team in the Yeah, you can say top 5 in the SEC, or in the national, in the NCAA. It wasn't a top 5. College team. Branch was good. I think he'll go I think he might fall to 14 at New England just because they'll have McCourty gone, they'll have Jabril Peppers gone, they'll have Jack Jones gone, the cornerback, and they need some youth on that team because they have a lot of holes still in New England. And one thing about Belichick is he likes him some good safeties. And I think, going from Saban to Belichick, the GOAT to the GOAT, he would benefit from that greatly. But if he fell to 16 and all corners and the tackles we wanted were gone, I wouldn't hate it. I'd put a question mark, but so the biggest need we right now, but between Forrest, Cam Curl, and with McCain gone, we would need a little bit of depth, and B, just bring in someone who's like, all right, we know what he can do, we know what he can do. Let's fill in the position we need. Like you said, he would fill that. Brian Branch would fit that perfectly. If he doesn't go to 14 and we don't take him, I don't know he makes it in the first round. That's the problem.
Right, because a slot is something you can understand now. Slot is a starting position. 10 years ago, that was okay. Well, that's your third cornerback. But right now, predominantly going, 60 to 70% in 3-man personnel and nickel, that's a starting position. And if you have a guy that can do that, but also drop into the safety position, that's valuable. Because right now, everyone is putting all their eggs for, St. Juice and Fuller, but I'm not too keen on them. I'd rather see one of the blue chip corners. But like you said, if somehow you talk about Witherspoon, Gonzalez, Porter, I wrote about him. I think he's really good, but his back pedal has not been tested, so that does concern me a little bit. So I think it'll take a little bit of time with him. But yeah, if you get an opportunity, any of those guys, those DBs we talked about, I think those are guys that are going to play early on. I don't think you can say the same thing for, if they get a left tackle, let's say, I'm not sure that they're going to play over Leno in the beginning, or maybe even try the right side, which I'm a for. So I think that they're really going to draft in the first 2 rounds with the intention of guys playing right away. So I think free agency is going to tell a lot.
Yeah, free agency is going to be really weird. I mean, I've had us go with guys like, Orlando Brown Jr., pay him $16 million a year for the next 4 years because he's young, he's good. I mean, if you can protect Mahomes against the Eagles, who had in my opinion, the best defense, because you go out and beat San Francisco. Question marks like QB, but you beat San Francisco. Outside of us, you went undefeated this season, and we beat you somehow. And you put up no sacks against Mahomes, but you let up no sacks. I think Orlando Brown would be a good target. Isaiah Wynn would be a target. Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker out of Buffalo, pair him with Jamin Davis. Guy I've gone after in free agency. I mean, there are guys, Jamel Dean, the corner out of Tampa Bay. Again, a good young corner. He's got to develop him some more. Cutting Carson Wentz was a great help. Guys like Logan Thomas, Roulier, Leno, Norwell, Turner, Fuller, if we were to cut him, is we can get $60 million cap space, but it's going to be, what do you cut now? What do you cut post, June 1st? And then what do you do with the money? Because today, Lamar got taxed. Saquon got taxed. Jones got his money. Geno Smith got his money. Josh Jacobs got tagged, I think, yesterday. I mean, there's guys going on just like that. And the tags are pricey, but now do you pay them, more over time, or do you pay them for right now and now you're screwed next year in the same position?
Right. 100%. But just before I get out of here, I wanted to say thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you.
Just everyone watching, check out the Burgundy and Gold Report.com. I'm on IG. We do our weekly drops for our, full, NCAA draft scouting report cards. Just click the link and click our virtual cards, and check us out. But man, really appreciate you having me on, man. It was great to chop it up.
No, definitely, man. I'm definitely getting you back on. Obviously we'll talk schedules and make sure Justin gets in here because he could talk shop about some of these guys for hours. And I'm rolling there with him. But definitely, appreciate you coming on. Guys, this was a quick podcast because he's a busy man. I'm a busy guy on vacation. So like I said, don't forget to go check the Burgundy and Gold Report over on Instagram and YouTube. Links are down in the description, and they might be here in the box as well. Don't forget to hit him up on Instagram, and don't forget to come over to Facebook as he'll do a post on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Join the community. Go over on YouTube, click like and subscribe on both of our accounts. Hit the little notification bell to make sure you know every time we upload. And other than that, again, thank you for coming on, especially on short notice on a late night here on Tuesday. You guys will see it on Wednesday. Like I said, don't forget to look over at him. He'll send us the reports, and we look at them like another thing of perfection. I can't get enough of it. But guys, don't forget to thank you. Go hit him up. Go hit us up, and don't forget to stay ballin'. We'll see y'all out there.